Welcome back to the Old Photo Vault channel. The Room That Wouldn't Sleep. Highway Motel, Ohio, 2:14 a.m., 1998. I hadn't planned to stay awake. The room smelled faintly of detergent and old carpet, the kind that promises rest by sheer familiarity. The television murmured a late football game, the bedspread heavy with a tired floral pattern. Every time I closed my eyes, though, the air seemed to shift, as if someone had crossed the room and stopped just short of the bed. Sometime after 2, I sat up and reached for my camera, more out of irritation than fear. The flash filled the room with white light, freezing the doorway, the television, the empty space above the foot of the bed. I didn't notice anything then. It was only later, developing the photo, that I saw it. A pale face suspended near the ceiling, mouth open, eyes hollow, blurred as if still moving. I remembered how the room never quite went quiet, even after I left. The girl outside the door. Forest Bunker, number 28, Bavaria. Late summer, 1976. The bunker sits quietly beneath the trees, half buried like something the forest is trying to forget. Moss gathers along the concrete edges, and the metal door hangs open just enough to show the dark inside. Locals say it was sealed for years, but no one remembers exactly when it was opened again. In old photographs, there is sometimes a figure standing to the left of the entrance. A young woman, pale and still, her dress too light for the shade. She never appears inside the bunker, only just beyond it, as if she has chosen a boundary she will not cross. They say a girl named Anna was taken here once and never came out. Searchers later found the bunker empty, scrubbed clean, impossibly quiet. In every image taken since, the forest looks unchanged, except for the girl outside. Watching the door, she refuses to enter, waiting for someone to notice she is still there. A final portrait. Victorian parlor, United States. Late 1800s. This photograph reflects the tradition known as post-mortem photography, a common practice in Europe and America during the late 19th and early 20th centuries. At that time, photography was expensive and rare. For many families, this image would be the first and last photograph ever taken of a loved one. The deceased was often dressed in their finest clothing and arranged carefully in a chair or bed, posed to appear peaceful, as if merely asleep. Flowers, books, or personal objects were placed in their hands to suggest continuity rather than absence. The goal was not to frighten, but to preserve dignity. To modern eyes, these images can feel unsettling. Yet to the families who commissioned them, they were acts of love. Death was not hidden away, but acknowledged quietly within the home. These photographs were kept on mantels and in albums, reminders that the person had existed, had been loved, and had not simply vanished when life ended. The delivery that never finished. East London Street, England. Autumn, 1912. It looks like an ordinary morning delivery. The horse stands patiently in the road, head lowered, steam lifting from its mouth as if the air itself were tired. The milk bottles are neatly stacked behind it, glass catching what little light the fog allows. Nothing appears rushed, nothing appears wrong. Only after a moment do you notice the figure inside the cart. He is faint, almost polite in his presence, as though he doesn't wish to interrupt the street. His face is pale and unfinished, the way reflections sometimes look in old shop windows. He isn't holding the reins. He isn't looking ahead. He seems to be waiting. Records from that street mention a driver who collapsed during his route and was found hours later, the horse still standing where it had stopped on its own. Neighbors remembered the quiet more than the death. The route that kept her. Old Magnolia Grove, Southern State Park, summer 1984. It was meant to be an easy afternoon. The tree was wide and familiar, its branches low enough for climbing, its leaves thick with shade. The kids laughed as they balanced themselves, shoes scraping bark, hands sticky with sap. Someone took a picture when everyone finally settled. Later, looking at it, there was something wrong near the trunk. Between the roots, just behind the girl in the cap, a pale shape stood where no one remembered standing. A young woman, thin as mist, her dress the color of old soil. She wasn't climbing. She wasn't smiling. She seemed pressed close to the tree, as if held there. Years afterward, a body was found beneath that magnolia. Bones tangled in roots, wrapped carelessly, hidden decades earlier. Locals said the ground there never stayed soft. In the photograph, the girl's eyes are open. She's looking up, not at the children, but at the branches, at the place she was never allowed to reach again. The cry in the corridor, Grand Avenue Hotel, Midwest, US. 11:47 p.m., 2003. The hallway looked ordinary enough when I stepped out of my room. Red walls, worn carpet, doors closed tight, the lights humming with that tired hotel sound. I'd been hearing a child cry for hours, soft at first, then closer, then gone whenever I opened the door. The desk clerk said no children were checked in that night. I told myself it was pipes or someone's television left on too loud. Still, I brought my camera. Halfway down the corridor, the crying started again, right behind me. I turned and raised the camera without thinking. The flash washed the hall in white, flattening everything. The doors, the carpet, the long empty stretch ahead. I didn't see her until later. A small figure stood where the sound had been, blurred and doubled as if she couldn't decide where to be. Bare feet, a nightgown too thin. She wasn't running. She was waiting. After that night, the hallway was quiet. I slept better. I don't know if she moved on, or if she finally knew someone had seen her, the one who stayed. St. Matthew's Church, New England. October 2009. I never believed in ghosts. I was hired to photograph a wedding, nothing more. The church was warm with candlelight, the wood darkened by years of vows and hymns. When the couple leaned in to kiss, everyone exhaled at once. It felt finished, sealed, ordinary. I took the shot without thinking. Later, reviewing the images, I paused at that frame. Behind the altar, between the candles, a figure stood where no one had been. A young man, slightly out of focus, dressed too plainly for the day. His face was calm, almost relieved. He wasn't looking at the groom. He was looking at the bride. I asked her about it, carefully. She went quiet and said her former fiancé had died years before, suddenly, weeks before their wedding. She had loved him once, she said, but life had moved on. In the photograph, the candles burn evenly. The guests smile, and the man behind them seemed satisfied, as if he only needed to see that she was finally safe enough to let him go. She came for the picture. Family living room, Midwest, US. Winter evening, 2016. It was supposed to be an ordinary photo, the kind taken after dinner when everyone is warm and a little loud. Someone balanced a phone on the table. The baby wriggled. A television murmured in the background. We leaned together and smiled the way families always do, hoping to keep the moment. No one noticed anything then. Later, scrolling through the picture, my sister went quiet. There was a face at the edge, soft and familiar, half-formed as if the light had learned it by heart. The same eyes, the same patient smile, my grandmother's smile, the one she used when the room was too full and she didn't want to interrupt. She had died the year before, in that same house, in the back bedroom where the window never quite closed. We'd said our goodbyes carefully, believing that was enough. In the photo, everyone is laughing. The baby looks down, and my grandmother is looking straight at us, as if she'd only stepped out for a moment and didn't want to be missed. The face no one knew. Apartment stairwell, Southeast Asia. Night 2014. It was just a crowded moment, the kind that happens before everyone spills out into the street. The stairwell was narrow and warm, bodies pressed close, jackets brushing, someone laughing too loudly behind the camera. The flash went off without ceremony. No one checked the screen. Later, when the photo made its way around, the room grew quiet. Between familiar shoulders and bowed heads, a face hovered where no one remembered standing. It didn't belong to a friend, or neighbor, or anyone who had climbed those stairs that night. The eyes were open but unfocused, the mouth held in a half-smile that didn't reach anywhere else. We asked around. Everyone shook their head. No one recognized it. The building manager mentioned a tenant who'd left years earlier, alone, after an accident no one liked to discuss. In the picture, the crowd leans forward, intent on leaving. The unknown face remains perfectly still, as if it finally found a way to be included, even if no one would ever say its name. The one who waits by the road. Old cemetery path, rural Midwest. Late autumn, 1992. It was an ordinary stop. Just a brief pause along a narrow road where the trees press close and the ground never quite dries. Leaves lay heavy around the small stone marker, their edges dark with rain. I took the picture without stepping off the path, careful not to disturb anything, telling myself it was only a grave and a quiet afternoon. I didn't notice the figure at first. Later, when the photo developed, there was a shape standing just beyond the stone, faint and incomplete, as if the air itself had learned a human outline. It faced the road, not the grave. Its posture patient rather than mournful. No face was clear, only the suggestion of someone who had once waited there often. Locals said accidents used to happen on that bend before the road was straightened. In the photograph, the path curves away, empty. The figure remains, still watching for a car that never stops, still expecting to be taken home. The smoke that learned her face. Small apartment kitchen, Southern Europe. 1968. It looks like an ordinary gathering, the kind that happens late, after the music has gone quiet. The men lean back in their chairs, shirts loosened, cigarettes burning down to soft gray. The woman in the center laughs, her hand lifted mid-gesture, caught between words. Someone raises a glass. Someone takes a picture. At first, the smoke seems harmless, just a blur where the light was weak. But the longer you look, the more it gathers. It curves and settles near the wall behind her, shaping itself with an unfamiliar patience. An eye appears where no eye should be, a mouth slightly open as if about to speak her name. No one in the room noticed anything that night. They kept talking. They kept smoking. Years later, someone remembered a woman who once lived there before them, who waited too long for someone who never came back. In the photograph, the smoke does not drift away. It watches her closely, as if remembering how it once sat at that same table, breathing. The photograph that learned to remember. Private collection drawer, unknown town, circa 1940. For years, the photograph stayed tucked away, pressed flat between old letters and a ribbon that had lost its color. When it was first taken, there had been only one woman on the road, standing stiffly in the light, her dress pale against the darkening trees. Nothing else seemed worth noticing. The image was ordinary enough to forget. Time passed. The drawer was opened again one quiet afternoon, the paper brittle, the surface clouded by age. Held up to the light, the photograph looked different. The edges felt warmer. The air around it seemed unsettled. That was when the second figure appeared. Just beside her, faint but deliberate, a shape had gathered. Another woman, closer to the camera, her face soft and unfinished, as though still learning how to be seen. No one remembered her being there. No one could explain when she arrived. The photograph had been alone too long, and when it was finally looked at again, it decided not to be alone anymore. The way, he still walked beside her. Backyard garden, English countryside. Late spring, 1956. It was meant to be a simple photograph of a woman tending her lawn. She smiled politely, both hands steady on the mower handle, her dress neat despite the work. The grass was trimmed, the garden calm. Everything arranged the way it had been for years. No one noticed anything unusual when the picture was taken. Only later did the shape appear, faint but unmistakable, standing just behind her left shoulder. A man's outline, thinner than memory, his face softened by light. He wasn't touching her, but he was close enough to be familiar, as if distance no longer mattered. Her neighbors said her husband had died the winter before. Since then, she still spoke to him while working outside, pausing now and then, as if listening. She insisted the garden grew better when she did. In the photograph, she looks forward, focused on the path ahead. Behind her, he keeps pace easily, walking the same ground he never learned how to leave. The mark before the fall. Community hall basement, Northern England, 1971. It looks like a harmless gathering, the kind that fills an evening without meaning to be remembered. The chairs are close, knees nearly touching, conversation drifting easily across the room. The young man in the middle leans forward as he laughs, unaware of anything except the sound of his friends. No one noticed the wall then. Only later, when the photograph was developed, did the shape appear beside his head. A face pressed faintly into the paneling, half-formed and watching him with an attention that felt too deliberate. It did not belong to anyone in the room. It did not match any reflection. It seemed to be looking only at him. Some said it was a trick of light, a coincidence of exposure and grain. Others went quiet when they remembered what happened next. Weeks later, the young man was gone, taken suddenly in an accident no one could explain. In the photograph, everyone else looks away. The face on the wall does not. The woman who didn't belong there. Suburban Street, South London. Summer, 1974. It was a warm afternoon, the kind meant for small projects and idle talk. The cars were masked in white paint, the street quiet except for the hiss of a spray gun and the scrape of sandals on pavement. A woman stood with her arms folded, watching, impatient for the work to be done. Someone lifted a camera to remember the day. Nothing seemed out of place at the time. Only later did the photograph begin to feel wrong. Near the tree at the edge of the frame, a woman stood apart from the others. She wore no shoes. Her dress was pale and narrow, cut from a different decade, and her posture was too still for someone observing. She wasn't watching the cars. She wasn't watching the people. She was looking at the house behind them. Neighbors would later mention a tenant who died quietly in that building years before, found near the front garden. In the image, the living are busy and distracted. The woman by the tree remains, waiting in a place she never quite left. The one who leaned over him. Family game room, Western Europe. Evening, 2011. It was a quiet moment meant to keep a child busy. The room was warm. Walls painted a soft orange, toys scattered just out of frame. The boy sat at the table, focused and serious, his hands small against the surface. Someone lifted a phone and snapped the picture without thinking much of it. Nothing felt strange at the time. Later, when the image was opened again, the background refused to stay ordinary. Behind the boy, something leaned forward from the shadows. A figure draped in dark fabric, its shape too deliberate to be a chair or a coat. The head tilted slightly, as if reading over his shoulder, as if interested. No one in the house remembered anyone standing there. The boy said he'd felt cold, briefly, like someone had paused behind him and then stepped away. In the photograph, he keeps working, unaware. The figure remains bent toward him, patient, close, and disturbingly familiar, like someone who had watched him learn long before that night. The shape at the tide mark. Northern coastline, Scotland. Early morning, 2008. It was meant to be a simple photograph after a long walk. The air was cold and clean, the beach quiet except for the slow breath of the sea. I stood smiling for the camera, boots sinking slightly into wet sand, the tall rock behind me steady and ancient. I didn't notice anyone else near the water. Later, looking at the image on a larger screen, something unsettled me. Near the edge of the tide, a dark figure stood where the shoreline thinned, half lost in reflection. It was shaped like a person, but carried no detail. No face, no clothes, only the suggestion of someone paused between steps. I remembered how the water had been strangely calm that morning, how the waves seemed to stop short of that spot. Locals later mentioned fishermen who vanished there decades earlier, pulled out too quietly to be noticed. In the photograph, I face the land. The figure faces the sea, as if still deciding whether to leave or wait to be taken again. The walk she didn't take alone. Seaside promenade, southern England, summer 1972. It looks like an ordinary holiday photograph. A young woman stands on the pavement with her hands behind her back, one knee bent, waiting patiently for the camera to finish with her. The hedge is neatly trimmed, the cars lined up in careful order, the sea just visible beyond the road. Nothing suggests danger or even hurry. At the time, no one noticed anything else. Only years later, when the photo was scanned and enlarged, did the second shape appear. Just behind her, faint and unfinished, a figure walks the same direction she does. The outline is thin, almost erased, as if the light struggled to decide whether it should remain. The head is lowered, the posture familiar in a way that makes the image uncomfortable to look at for too long. The woman remembered that walk clearly. She remembered feeling watched. She never remembered being alone. The cup she never finished. Boarding house kitchen, Pacific Northwest. Morning, 1963. It looks like a simple photograph taken before work. The kitchen is narrow and clean, dishes stacked to dry, a radio just out of frame. She smiles with the easy confidence of someone who has already decided the day will be kind. The cup is light in her hand, steam barely visible, the moment held long enough to feel permanent. Nothing seems wrong until you look behind her. Near the shelves, a blur stands where there should be empty air. It isn't smoke and it isn't shadow, though it borrows from both. The shape leans slightly toward her, attentive, familiar, as if it knows how she takes her coffee. The longer you look, the more it resembles a person waiting to speak. The photo was found years later among her things. She had left that house suddenly, without explanation. In the image, she keeps smiling. The cup remains raised, and something behind her seems certain she won't be drinking alone again. The light that learned her shape. Living room bar, Southwest US. Late night, 1998. It was a playful moment, nothing more. Music was loud, laughter bouncing off the walls, a borrowed hat tilted at the wrong angle. She raised her arm for the camera, half dancing, half performing for friends who would forget the night by morning. The room was cluttered with ordinary things. Framed photos, empty bottles, a lamp that hummed faintly. The flash went off. No one stopped smiling. Later, when the photo was printed, the light refused to behave. A pale glow hovered near her shoulder, round and soft, as if it had weight. Lower down, another shimmer lingered near her waist, brighter, more deliberate. The shapes seemed almost layered, like faces pressed gently into fog. She joked about dust, about reflections, about cheap cameras. Still, she never liked that picture. She said the room felt colder than it should have been. In the image, she is laughing. The light is not. It stays close, learning her outline, as if deciding whether to remain only light or become something else. If these images unsettled you, you're not alone. Sometimes photographs don't just capture a moment. They keep something that didn't want to be left behind. Look closely, tell me what you see, and share your thoughts in the comments. And if you want to keep exploring the stories hidden inside old photos, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay with us for the next one.